Good evening, and I welcome you to your transformative program, Politics and Beyond. I'm your host, Emmanuel Jr. As always, you are going to have an interactive and an educative program. We have just about 2 or so weeks. Indeed, my check suggests that after today's episode, we have about 2 more episodes to go into the general elections. And as I have promised you, and I did right from the beginning of this year, that this platform is going to be a platform that is going to educate you and expose you in making sure that the right decisions are taken. At the appropriate time, if the need be or when the opportunity comes, we may activate the phone lines. But whilst we hope to do that, you can get interactive with us using the social media handles on the platform or the screen as we have it, including the WhatsApp platform 9 that will be on the screen very soon. Get interactive with us because this evening we are going to have another interesting conversation. And our conversation is going to be very simple. We are talking about governance in this country. And you remember what I keep telling you, that governance is a serious business. It's a serious business because the decisions you take does not only affect you today, but it also has a significant effect on your life, the near future, distant future, even on the life of your unborn children. Governance is a serious business. And that is why, as we prepare into the 7th December elections, you need to know that the fact that you're a politician or you have a politician doesn't necessarily mean that that politician is fit to be a leader. There's a vast difference between a politician and a leader. And the problem we've had, particularly in this 4th Republic, is that most politicians have been taking leadership roles instead of leaders taking political positions. You see, when a politician decides to take a leadership role, the vision of a politician is always limited. And it is limited because every politician, the average politician's vision is simply to win the next election. Whereas a leader's vision is to make sure that he secures the future of the next generation. And that is why, as we go into this election, let us look out for traits of leaders. A traits that we can identify in individuals who are contesting, and we can comfortably say that this particular person is a leader and not just a politician. Don't just follow and say that I'm going to vote because I was born into a political party, a certain political party. And so whether that person is fit for purpose or not, I am voting that person. No, that is not how it works. Because the vote you go and cast or the decision you go to make, it has nothing or little to do with the political party you are affiliated to. It has everything to do with your future. And that is why it is important for us to reflect when we are going in to make the decision. This evening, what we are going to have a conversation on specifically has to do with us assessing the various leaders that we have. The individuals, particularly the forerunners, the leaders, the leading candidates that we have as far as this coming election is concerned. We want to identify which of them or how many of them do have leadership traits, so that when we are making the decision we are going to make will not be based on the person being a politician, the person leading a political party, but it is going to be based on the fact that the person has got leadership traits. And that is very, very important. And one area we are going to look at has to do with the trustworthiness of those individuals, because a leader, one significant character of a leader or a good leader is that that person should be trustworthy. And that's why this evening's conversation, we've christened it in a form of a question, that the 7th December 2024 elections, who should we trust? Who should we trust? We'll take a commercial break, but whilst we do that, I want you to get interactive. Just you can attempt answering this question. And the question is, this 2024 7th December elections, who do we trust? I'm not just interested in you mentioning names, but if you should mention name, I expect you to add reasons why you think the name you've mentioned is a person that we should trust. We'll be looking at 5 thematic areas. The first one has to do with we evaluating the trustworthiness of the candidates. The second one has to do with we're looking at the policies and the visions of the various candidates. We are also going to look at the character and the integrity of the individual candidates. Then we move on to the external validation, and then we'll look at the additional tips. And so these are the 5 thematic areas we are going to use, and hoping that even if we do not exhaust it all today, the next 2 episodes will be able to exhaust it, so that you'll be well informed and prepared to go and make the right choice. The WhatsApp line, it is not a call line because people have started calling, but that's not a call line. It's the WhatsApp line, 050-888-1800. Attempt to answer this question, and at the right time, your comments will be read for you. Stay tuned. Let your colleagues be aware that we've started the program, and after taking the commercial break, when we come back, I'm going to introduce to you the guest who is going to help us to exhaust this area. Just stay tuned.
Welcome to AutoCheck Vehicle Diagnostic and Licensing Center.
I hear my car can be checked here without going to Accra.
Sure.
Check, auto checks, check, auto checks, check.
Emission, check.
Auto checks.
Alignment, check.
Brakes, check. Visit AutoChecks at Koforidua Aquadum Road for the roadworthiness of your vehicle, from saloon cars to heavy-duty industrial vehicles. Madam, your car is now ready for the road.
Thank you so much.
Auto checks.
Auto checks, check.
AutoChecks, your safety, our priority.
Check, auto checks.
The average human body mass should have at least 60% water for optimal performance in any physical or mental exercise. We can help you maintain it naturally. Natural mineral water. Simply natural. For bulk purchase, call 0596 273 546 or 0596 273 547. This advert is FDA approved.
Welcome back. As I indicated, and you know, my name is Emmanuel, Jr., the Chief Crusader Against Corruption in Ghana here. This evening, we're going to have a very interactive conversation, and I know a lot of people have started calling me. Please, the line you have, the numbers you have on the screen is for test and testing only, WhatsApp communication, and so send in your comments. We are looking at the 7th December 2024 general elections. We are looking at who we should trust. It is very important for us to have a conversation around this because, you know, just before this show started this evening, my team shared with me the pricing of some commodities, and we were doing some comparison between from 2016 to date, and it will amaze you of how things have become so expensive in this country. And I felt so sad, particularly when my attention went on one item, and that has to do with sanitary pad. In the year 2016, sanitary pad was going for 4 Ghana cedis. Today, as we speak, as at 9th of October 2024, sanitary pad is being sold at 33 Ghana cedis. From 4 Ghana cedis in the year 2016 to 33 Ghana cedis. And the items goes on and on and on. And it is really, really worrying. Cement, for instance, it was going for 27 as we speak. Cement is going for 108 Ghana cedis, and it is so amazing. And so I keep telling you that governance is a serious business, and you did not play with it. And that is the reason why this evening we are privileged to have with us one important person, someone I respect and I like so much, because anytime I get opportunity to have an interaction with, I am very sure that before the conversation ends, my understanding, my knowledge will be deepened. And that is why I am happy that this evening we are having him. He's not in Accra, and so we are having him by phone for us to interact and converse on who should we trust. The topic is who should we trust. We have with us Professor Samuel Edujemfi, who is the patron for Crusaders Against Corruption Ghana KNUST chapter. He's also an applied historian and a vice dean at the Faculty of Social Sciences, KNUST. Prof, good evening and welcome to Politics and Beyond.
My brother, I hope you are doing well.
Hello, Prof.
Good evening, my brother. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Prof. Prof,
Yes,
it's a privilege to have you join us on our show, Politics and Beyond. I hope all is well.
all is well.
Great. Prof, so this evening we are going to have somehow an extensive conversation. We are looking at the various candidates that we have. We are preparing towards the 7th December elections. And as I said earlier, governance is a serious business and we need not play with it. Because whatever decision we take is a decision that is going to affect not just our present circumstances, but it's going to affect our future. It is also going to affect not just our future, but the future of and the lives of even the unborn generation. And that is why it is very important when we are going to make any decision of this caliber, we must be well informed. And this evening we are looking at who makes up an ideal leader and what are the characteristics that we need in identifying or seeing that or deciding that this particular person is the ideal leader. Prof, if you will be kind enough, first off, we want to know from your perspective the current situation, the current state of Ghana, and in a word or two to describe the kind of leader you think Ghana needs as we speak now.
Thank you very much. It's an interesting point and a question at the same time. You can see broadly that where we sit as a country now, we are in a state of economic turmoil. It's come about as a result of an intense quest, if you like, to mortgage the future of this country. And that was presided over by Nalban Akufo-Addo, which is caused especially with his friends and family government. The fundamental ethos, I believe, of what he believes in is to better siphon the resources of this country to empower his clan. And among other things, to make sure that Ghanaians in the broader spectrum would be following them the next years ahead, hoping that they will determine or decipher our fate in the foreseeable future pertaining to the economy and who owns what in the country and how even the political trajectory of the MPP itself would be determined in the foreseeable future. So that it was, first of all, a state capture by the Akufo-Addo's government and also a party capture by state. That agenda does not have a positive correlation with the provision of public goods, because when the leader is not a servant leader or pragmatic in the sense, and even if not charismatic enough to know that it is the people who voted you to power, and therefore your legitimacy is contingent upon they who have voted you to power accepting your style of governance and your provision of the public good. This has been absent, and severally it has been blamed on the Russian-Ukraine war. It has also been blamed on, if you like, the COVID-19. But the COVID count of the original COVID account has not been properly, if you like, accounted for. The stewardship on that was quite problematic. And more so, we have also seen that the critical mass of the people who were anticipating that even post-COVID they would do better. But that was not the case. Ghanaians were faced with additional taxation called the e-levy. In many ways, it was to be the magic wand that will hit the bull's eye to serve better still as a panacea to the kind of woes we find ourselves. And then came several austerity measures. And people had haircuts when they were promised that there would be no haircut. Teachers, including some colleagues today, have had their money locked up in some investments with no returns, and their money should not be given to them. Banks laid off people because those banks themselves were closed. A lot of strategies, tactics that were aimed to steal, to kill, and to destroy were put in place, and they found their pride of place in the heart of the chief butcher of the economy of Ghana, President Akufo-Addo. This type of government is what has become a kind of, if you like, an albatross around the neck of Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. A gentleman who presents a face that severally was thought could not be possible because largely the argument was that the MPP was Asante Achim hegemonic, if you like, dynasty in many ways within the MPP, and therefore the NDC itself assumed that no Northerner would potentially or possibly have the opportunity to lead the party as a flag bearer. The challenge here, however, we see is that Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is brought into the picture, comes in with some kind of background as an economist, comes in with some degree of depth, and campaigns with Akufo-Addo for the third time a victory comes. And when victory comes, this gentleman is pushed to the periphery, and jail will not allow him to play any role whatsoever. And this is what you will see with the e-levy when this gentleman himself goes to one of the FM stations and passes comments, among other things, to suggest that he was not in support of the e-levy. To safeguard his own political future, he will not allow the kind of brouhaha and misgiving that was, if you like, the rest within the within the MPP, and I shudder to say that had a tendency to also affect his own political future in the MPP. He decided to stay calm. What we see is a president who decided to enjoy all the cake and to get a vice president whose campaign in the foreseeable future or fortunes will be stolen by the certain president. So, among other things, we come to this juncture to ask ourselves the question about leadership. The fact is that Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia has not been led well by his flag bearer, his former flag bearer, and president currently, his boss, Nana Akufo-Addo. Therefore, it casts a certain shadow upon his ambition. Some of his ideas are ideas we could reflect on, and maybe we could walk with through some of the pointers you want us to talk about. But the question is that so far as Akufo-Addo's government casts a certain shadow on him, and he also being a running mate, being the vice president, also makes him quiet of somebody who is implicated by the failures of this government. Having said that, it is asked to do a just capture of the successes and the failure of the MPP government and Akufo-Addo and the government of the late President Evans C.P. Atamil and that of former President Mahama. It's very interesting to look at that because when you ask me who should be the individual who can offer us right leadership. I think we need to look between these two gentlemen and ask ourselves which of them would tell much of the truth to us, who will be much truthful than the other. Is it Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia or former President Mahmoud, who will be much truthful when we compare their records and their legacy from their political tradition? At least 8 years for the NDC, the first 4 years under Mills when he served as a vice president, and then the second 4 years he being a substantive president, and the 8 years this man, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, being a vice president. If we compare the 8 years, which of these governments and these two individuals can be said to be fruitful? And that is the question we want listeners and viewers and Ghanaians to reflect on, to ask themselves, who is likely to be true? We were told, you heard that, my brother. Hello? Hello?
Ahead. Prof, can you hear me?
Yes, my brother. You heard the statement, the slogan,
exactly, very well. That's true. Yes, very clear.
Now, just to explore that, Ghana is one of the countries that is, if you like, blessed with nature's beneficence. And in many ways, it was contemplated that with oil finds, in addition to some of the, if you like, sources of our revenue, either from cocoa, from bauxite, manganese, from the private sector or the informal sector, and the public sector, and all the other, sources of revenue we generate to build our city to expand on, then we anticipate that Ghana would have done better over the years as we move along, and that government in, government out, year in, year out, will find better use, of our resource and also make gains and all that. Yes, Ghana is not a rentier state to say that we do not pay tax, we pay tax. Some countries in if you like, some oil-rich countries, right, citizens do not pay tax.
Right.
They do very well, even though it's said that their states are not democratic. However, in this democratic state, like constitutional democracy, with oil find and all that, if you have a government which was formed on the back of the promise that Ghana has enough resources, and therefore we should be doing well. Today we ask ourselves, how have we managed our resources? And what level of fiscal discipline has accompanied that? We're told that we'll not go back to IMF, but now we are back to IMF. So there are lots of questions in the Akufo-Addo government that cast a deep shadow on Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. It is for the same reason I said that we must have a strategy, among other things, to delink his persona, his charisma from President Akufo-Addo, an exercise he has made effort to embark upon, but I cannot, in my contemplation, draw any conclusions by now whether he has been successful or not, because it seems to the general public that he is inextricably interwoven with the Akufo-Addo mess and failure. And he ought to have come out boldly to create a dissent. And he should have built upon that dissent he was coming up with as against the e-levy. And that would have given him a certain degree of credence than what he has now. Because he's working harder as if he is the one in opposition. And that this has come about not only because he's a hard-working person, but it is because Akufo-Addo makes the work very difficult for him. It comes on the back of corruption, which Akufo-Addo himself have openly and glaringly demonstrated mortgaging the future of this country through its friends and family government. Found it very difficult to start a finance minister, even when Ghanaians were calling for himself to rule. And I dared Ghanaians, and I said it on TV, that there is no way President Akufo-Addo will do that. And I will be very much, flabbergasted, surprised, shocked to the core if he did that. And no wonder he just played to the script, which is an old script. The business to mortgage the future of this country and for them to own it. And
very well.
That is the of the corruption within the NPC. In fact, on the basis of truthfulness, if you look at that, that will be the question. But just permit me to have a certain balance in my argument. You see, we heard of Jida, Suba, Aristotle, and all those mantras or slogans that, if you like, vivify the rallies and the campaigns of the NPP, pointing to the corruption or the corrupt tendencies of the NDC government under President Mahama. And today, President Mahama, when you look at him and you look at Akufo-Addo, and the NPP under Nana Akufo-Addo seem to have created an engine out of him. And it is quite disturbing because it leads us to a leadership crisis of Ghana, because Ghana is in a leadership crisis. Some have argued that are we going to vote based on voting for a lesser of two evils? And that is a pointer we could ruminate on before I point towards other directions, my brother.
That's true. That's true. Doc, thank you so much. So let's dwell a bit more on the trustworthiness, evaluating the trustworthiness. And in your presentation, two things have been established. A leader is the person who we can define to be truthful. And then went further to talk about the fact that Akufo-Addo has failed us, and because of he being on the same ticket with Bawumia in the last two elections, it is very difficult for Dr. Bawumia to delink himself from the messes that Akufo-Addo has created. I mean, as you put it. Still on the issue of trustworthiness, and viewers, pardon me, it looks like Doc is limiting it to the MPP and the NDC, and rightly so, because whether we like it or not, they are the two leading or the front runners, and because of time constraints, it will be appropriate for us to limit our conversations to a large extent to these two candidates, because yes, they are the leading ones. Prof, aside truthfulness, there's this issue of consistency. There's this issue of transparency. You talked a bit about it. There's this issue of accountability and also the track record. I am particularly interested in the issue of track record. If we limit our conversation to these two gentlemen, the former president, John Mahama, who wants to come back, and then to the current vice president, Bawumia, who also wants to be elected to be the president. If we look at their track records, these two track records, which of the two track records, in trying to assess some of the things that they have done, which of these two do you think we can trust and say that per their track records, this person or this individual, if we should elect, we are comfortable of having a leader?
Holding all other things constant, I think that President Akufo-Addo's campaign promises and what he has executed so far suggests to me that what he said before 24 hours, some 8 years ago, was a hyperbole. And in many ways, such exaggerated promises in many ways represent untruth. Because when you juxtapose the promises and what is executed, it seems to me that it amounts to lies. Right? It's quite obvious that we should have seen some interesting things happening, for example, in our Ashanti region which has been consistent following the MPP for years, even when the MPP is thinking. It is the Asante region, which becomes an anchor that gives the MPP some hope, and even if it is a glimmer of hope. Today, we see Swame Intati now under construction at a time when we are closer to elections than it's ever been. If you have truly been truthful, if there's a right word to use within that space, if you were really committed to the promises that were made to people, this particular item on the table today, which is under execution, should have been done some 7 years ago. And so it's quite insulting and belied, nauseating that untruth and vote buying, among other things, is allowed to pass. And that is a typical example of corruption, and also how, the impropriety of things. If you look at how, if you want to trust anything with the ETS Akufo-Addo has presided over.
Right.
But if you look at President Mahama, indeed, and he's not an individual. If you look at the kind of infrastructural agenda he had, look at the school blocks that was naked all over the place, which he was accused of, that he built buildings in bushes and all that. And I said that people have not read Ghana's history, and that is a sad commentary. We have had questions about rural-urban drift, rural-urban migration, creating a lot of miscreants in Kumasi, in Accra, and in the bigger cities. And so if you want to develop a people, you bring education to their doorstep, fundamental. We expect that the buildings should be put in the sky or on top of the skyscrapers in Accra and the individual private buildings in Kumasi. Is that what we are talking about? So we have been very cynical, and it seems to me that we have not been a thinking people, right? And today, those schools that were abandoned, some of them are functioning. Some of them are still now communities. The boarding school system is a very good system, but it has lost its glory, and I have a reason to say that. The whole boarding school system was a colonial machination. If you know your history and you are daft, intellectually daft, you think boarding school is everything. But boarding school is a representation of colonialism. And for that matter, our kids went there to be Christianized. I'm a Christian to the core, so I am not preaching against Christianity tonight. But they went there to be taught European ideals fundamentally, right? Like the Salems that were created, communities that were segregated from the broader indigenous community. More so as we find in the attempt to create Pan-African states in South Africa and European elitist states and communities. So that one side of society was more impoverished, the other was more glorious and doing well. So in as much as the boarding school system had its own benefit with at the time of independence.
Hello, Prof. Yes, go.
Can you hear me?
Now we can hear you. We lost you a bit, but you can go on.
Yes. At the time of independence, what was our population? We were very few people. So boarding school at that time cannot be the same today. The type of investment that must go into it in terms of feeding. Look at the kind of food our children are eating at the secondary school. Right. Look at it. I almost spoke to you. When a man is in angry, he speaks in his native tongue. I almost spoke to you. Look at the type of food that is, provided for our kids at the secondary school. So when you have day schools, check all advanced jurisdictions and check how many boarding schools are running those advanced jurisdictions. Right. Unless you are intellectually dishonest and daft. Sorry, no apologies to anyone. So when we are progressive enough and systematic in our thinking, we know that that system was good enough to allow us to rethink that if we're sending more bright teachers to these secondary schools, these day schools, and it was closer to rural communities, it had the tendency or the proclivity to expand the economy in that area. you bring water, you bring additional housing, electricity. That which former President Ronald made a healthy contribution than any other leader has done. And maybe, among other things, the NDC is credited to have provided more to our electric power grid in Ghana, and comparatively in Africa, we are doing very well as a result of the great work that was done by former President Ronald, which was, built on by governments, other subsequent governments. So fundamentally, it is important for us to understand that historically we've also known that we talk about decentralization and devolution of power and all that. And also when you devolve education and bring it to the doorstep of the local people, what you are doing is that you are in the local community. Why should everybody come to Prempeh College, where I attend? Why should Prempeh College be overloaded? Or Atimota, or Infantiple, or Prefect? I'm mentioning the names of the schools that are winning the Brilliant Science and Math School.
That's right.
Why can't we know that these emerging day schools could have also provided that magic one, where these people living in the community and they would become models to instead of these students. And when good housing are provided using appropriate local technology to build right houses, affordable houses. You see, it's easy to fix the Ghanaian case, but those who have fixed it or who try to also fix it, unfortunately, sometimes they also are carried away by other populist agenda. Then the other issue I want to touch base with is the question about free education, and then just the positioning that to what we call, quality education and all that. And you may want to read some of my earlier articles I've written on the free education and all that. And some of the major questions that I have posed to university lecturers.
Right.
That today, with free education, what you see is that a lot of people are coming to school fine. You are likely going to show up the numbers literate people in the country. So you have a literate population, but there are a lot of questions in there we need to answer. How many of them do violence? How many hours are they spending, man hours are they spending, or credit hours are they spending in the classroom? Very few hours. Still, parents are hiring teachers for their kids to have private tuition before they can pass examination. And we still have to even ascertain the schemes that is coming out and how our students are being assessed, whether we are turning out, as senior high school graduates that are under political machinations or political manipulations and all that, or I don't know how to put it, but see, the point is that we need to look at the science of it, education inside, so that the mass exodus of people from their houses to secondary school on the face value looks interesting, but we do not want to have big secondary school graduates. In the days of the Form 5 or the state form or the 1980s structural adjustment policies, S-Cube emerging and other policies emerging to look at 3 years junior high school with technical vocational attaché and also progressing to secondary education, technical education, and tertiary education with polytechnics and universities and all that. We have missed our path along the way due to political expediency. And several of the policies have been judiciously propagated and implemented without necessarily dotting our eyes, crossing our teeth, and understanding the right punctuation and inflections that are required to allow us to have a good read of the future of our education system, especially at the second cycle level. And so the free education has become both a blessing and a curse. And when we make it a political mantra, it's a cheap political mantra, because we need to examine it and see how the next government will fill the gap in there. As against quality education, and I want to say this, a very critical question we must answer. You see, and if I have time, I will tie that also into the health insurance, and I've written extensively on direct health insurance. There are a lot of gaps in politically produced, policies if we are not careful. You see, we do population census, right? Almost every 10 years. I tell you, those who do this, look, over the years, my house, I have not been counted, and my family members have not been counted. counted. I say it authoritatively. Nobody has counted me either in my house or wherever I find myself. Sometimes you see that they have managed your building. But let's put that aside and let's talk about the society management. If every 10 years we do population census, you know what that means, Mama? It means that we know the very rich, we know the very poor, we know those who are middle income, and we know all that demographics. We should be able to tell those who really need free education.
Exactly.
So that those who can pay, pay. Let us not be too cynical. On the back of cheap politics, destroy our education. A few of our students are suffering and struggling. And the time to finish up the syllabus complete, I believe it's not enough. Teachers are afraid to lose their job. I will say it. And you see what I did. What affects? I will tell you this. So there are a lot of critical questions that we must subject these policies to, and understand that if somebody is looking at quality education, it doesn't mean that the person is not thinking about the poor. Rather, the person is thinking about solving the woes of the country permanently, momentarily. And unfortunately, former President and his campaign team sometimes are intimidated, and they panic, and they begin to if you like, buy into some of these analysis and try to find ways of accepting that. But let me move to the next analysis, which is important. The question about Galamsey. We were told as Ghana that this president said he was going to fight the Galamsey link today. And under former President Mahama, we were told that Galamsey showed up, right? They could not fight the Galamsey.
Exactly.
And today, it is Akufo-Addo who was supposed to fight the Galamsey question for us. The sector minister in that area resigned, or whether he was forced to resign. There were national security issues and all that. Remember, Professor Pembo Martin, and what he had to say, and all the other things. Today, you have a certain running making promises to Galamsey, if there is a right word to use. But it's in the days of gather and sell, which is corrupted. So you can read my article on artisanal mining in Ghana.
Okay.
I've written also on Galamsey.
Right.
But let me tell you this. It's a critical question we need to reflect on. That we are saying that we cannot, government is saying that they cannot speak against Galamsey because they will vote
against them. That's true.
That is cheap politics.
Right.
That is simple. That is the agony of Ghanaians. Look, I tell you this. Water must be odorless, colorless, tasteless. That's what we learned at the primary school.
That's very true.
This is basic science. Basic science. So when we are polluting water, already we have to look at the national grid in terms of water distribution, either at Sekunde and Takrade and Accra and Kumasi historically. What has been the incremental distribution, water supply by Ghana Company historically? I think historians are not getting. You see that people are standing. A lot of, if you look at equity, we have not had it. Private people are doing their own boreholes, and sometimes philanthropists are providing community boreholes.
Right.
A lot of the housing that is taking place in Kumasi, all over the place, either in Greater Kumasi or Regional Kumasi, whatever the case is, are individuals providing boreholes in their houses. So already we have an issue with water supply. And so when our water sources are being polluted and we do not care about it, we have a problem. The aquatic life is disturbed. The whole ecosystem, the whole environment is being destroyed. It has its own health implications. Today, people, pregnant women, are beginning to have certain experiences with malformation of fetuses and all that. And people are saying that there's no scientific proof to that. What a shame. Now people are selling their intelligence and their intellectual acumen and brain was one government, President Mohammed government, was told to have failed in the Galamsey fight. But that didn't happen. Then we had an institution that was supposed to fight corruption. You know that institution?
Special Prosecutor's Office?
Special Prosecutor's Office.
Right.
The gentleman who was appointed to be the Messiah who was going to do the job was fired, right?
That's right. Martin Amidu.
Martin Amidu was fired.
That's right.
Today, we ask ourselves the question. If we cannot fight political corruption to serve as an example, to trickle down to the ordinary masses, then where are we going as a people? So fundamentally, when President Mahama also wants to win political power today,
yes,
others have accused him for not dealing with those actors who were corrupt in his government, who were thinking that this government was going to bury him for good, and his own political career would never be resurrected.
That's
so
true.
So far as President Mahama has the courage to be able to go to the NDC primaries to win and to be in the race today, it's simply a sign that this government is not going to be able to produce the next government in 2025.
That's right.
Period.
That's right. That's very fantastic and well explanatory. Doc, I want us to, even though we veered into that, and that is why I allowed you, I didn't interrupt, but I want us to again stay a bit more on what you've started, and that has to do with the policies and the vision of the various political parties' manifestos. You and I have had access to their manifestos. I'm sure by now we've read extensively the NDC manifesto. We've also read, extensively the MPP manifesto. When we are talking of manifestos, we are looking at which of them has got clear vision, which of them has got realistic promises, which of them have what we call the inclusive policies. Because you made mention of some mantras that we had earlier, Yetisikason or comedy, and we will never borrow again, we won't go to IMF, we are going to make sure that corruption will be a thing of the past, we are going to make sure. So many promises were seen in previous elections, their manifestos. This particular election, the two manifestos that has been studied so far, which of these manifestos, first off, I want to know, how do we identify a realistic promises in the various manifestos? And which of these manifestos can you suggest or say that has got a clear vision and has got a very realistic promises?
I think there are two things that will win this election, not necessarily in the product framing of the manifesto. But
right.
One is the economy, and the other one is in the romantic ritual President Akufo-Addo performed to release former President Mahama from the dead.
Right.
That is what will win the elections in 2024 December 7th. That's
right.
what is going to win the election. So that will not be the broader lesson. So that all the discussions that have so far will point you at that. That somebody has gone to sleep, you perform a romantic ritual. You know what Saul did when he didn't wait to end all and he released someone from his sleep when and wanted to engage concerning the future of Israel. Exactly what you are seeing here. That President Akufo-Addo has performed a diplomatic ritual to raise President Mahama from the grave. Exactly the point. Thinking that the old man was going to bed, and that in many ways there were other even young men, right? And I can mention some of the young men in the NDC, but because it's an election time, I wouldn't mention them. But after the next government has been formed and it's over,
right.
I will tell you the potential flag bearer of the NDC in the foreseeable future. But the other young men would have had their turn. But President Akufo-Addo raised him. He did not raise him up for nothing. He raised him up because he said that he has no course and life ahead of him.
That's right.
So maybe the reading, the book that was written by my brother Manasseh Azuri Awini and the 4th John, I have it in my library. Unfortunately, we are not on Zoom. I would have showed you my copy.
Right.
So whether there's a return of God, right? But fundamentally, because Akufo-Addo raised this man from his sleep, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia should understand that if he loses this election, And President Akufo-Addo, of course, in that. And he gave Ghana that option. He gave Ghana the option of President Mahama. And that was done by the necromantic ritual of President Akufo-Addo, by misgovernance, and by fiscal indiscipline through the friends and family government, overtaxing the people who were struggling post-COVID. And I have some pieces. I had a lot of discussions. You can watch my podcast with Professor Dintobi on COVID-19 and how I discussed policy failures, if you like, because this is dangerous. When, oh my God, I am amazed.
I get you.
I'm amazed that it's as if suddenly when it comes to this country and its NDC MPP, it's a let us lose their head.
That's right.
What a shame.
It's sad. It's sad. I agree. I agree perfectly. Prof, I agree perfectly with you. I mean, I really, really agree perfectly with you. There's and our time is running very, very fast. But I want us to probably...
Okay.
Yes. You wanted to say something?
Yeah. So we hear of digitalization.
Yes.
And we also hear of 24-hour economy.
Right.
I wish to, my brother, I wish to have a conversation. I mean, maybe you and I hold a conversation between Mahama and former President Mahama and His Excellency, the Second Gentleman, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. These are two fine gentlemen, I will tell you the truth. I wish two of us would have a conversation, an open conversation, not a debate with them.
Right.
So, with the camera set on us, no audience.
Right.
And then we play for things. Because, you see, very interesting. Very interesting, right? Why is it that for 8 years we did not see digitalization? And what are some of the successes? I mean, going through digitalization and all that would have given to us at the port of Ghana,
right,
and at the port of entry. The signs of import and export and all that should tell us that already we have deficit as a people.
That's right.
And a lot of the people who are doing importation are more than those who are doing exportation, right? Export. Now, the cars they are importing and all that they are importing are overly taxed. Have we been able to close all the open secret valves? And have we been able to really ensure that through the process of digitalization, Ghanaians are better off from the port and they are paying less tax? Should it be a promise for the future or something that should have been in motion? Interesting time, isn't it?
Very. It is.
Then somebody makes a proposition of 24 hours. I spent time to discuss the 24 hours, but later I realized that I was becoming an analyst for President Mahama, which he has not hired me to do, so I quit because I felt that they were not doing serious justice to the 24-hour economy at the time they set up. Right. But I think that the 24-hour economy, just as digitalization has many prospects if you look at it from both ends. If you have a 24-hour economy, you will need digitalization to drive it.
Exactly.
And if you are doing digitalization, you should also embrace 24-hour economy.
That's true.
If both ends are not embracing, and I mean, you like brainstorming from a different angle, right, without necessarily engaging themselves, I know they are bouncing ideas in many ways. It is logical and prudent that they can steal their ideas for the sake of Ghana and see how they dovetail these things into their system as they begin to plug into who will become who in their next government.
That's right.
And for me, that is even very much important to me than their politics. Why do I say that? We have had fantastic policies on our drawing board. Interesting manifesto. Look, 2016 or so, I defined the NDC manifesto as a lifetime manifesto, and I said that they not need to alter that manifesto. So that in many ways, we have a lot of both the NDC and the MPP that are doing that workable, except that sometimes they hire a lot of corrupt people, and severally they themselves are proving to be corrupt. And so my question always is that between the two people, who will steal Ghana? I mean, less than the other. If you place a gun on Mahama, President Mahama, if you place a gun on Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, and say that steal from Ghana, steal from Ghana. You don't steal it, you don't steal from the state who blows off your head. Between the two, we want to answer the question, who will steal best? Who will be the lesser in terms of stealing from the country?
Right.
It's a very important question.
Very, very important.
We need to answer because if we behave like ostriches.
Prof, I'm listening. Hello, Prof. Oh, we've lost Prof. I was so much into the conversation, and we'll see if we get Prof on the line again. We'll get him to wrap up for us with his last words. But let me quickly go through some of the messages that have come. Good evening, Mr. Wilson. My name is Charles. I'm a Ghanaian but resident in Nigeria. I would like to say that MPP government doesn't have any good thing to offer Ghanaians. They only came to loot, and that's why they have planned any means to rig the elections. All right. We are trusting a leader, not a politician, period. To me, the so-called politicians are for self-profit, not for the welfare of the masses. Mahama is the brain for now, nothing else. Ghana is bleeding under these politicians, and the name is Hola. Okay, this 2024 elections, the one I can trust is Mahama, because when he was in parliament, Ghana inflation was okay, but now it's so high. So why won't I go for NDC? You didn't add your name. We are doomed if this inept and clueless government called the MPP is kept in governance come this 2024 general elections. Living in Ghana has become unbearable under this very government. Let us trust JM and vote massively for him. This is Prince from Akimada. We have Doc on the line. Doc, Prof, can you hear me?
Yes.
Welcome back, Prof. Prof, our time is fast spent, but trust me, just like you hinted, this is not going to be there. We are going to have another conversation with you on this same topic. But if you be kind enough, in wrapping up, just a word or two, less than 30 seconds in wrapping up, what advice do you give as we prepare for the 7th December elections?
I want to tell Asante region that they should put Ghana first.
Thank you so much, Prof. Thank you so much. And we are so grateful to have you. As I indicated, talking to Prof has always been an interesting one. And we know very soon we'll be having Prof in studio for us to deliberate further. Prof, thank you so much and have a good night, Prof.
You're welcome.
So, viewers, back to the messages. This one says, good evening, Mr. Wilson and your panel, Prof. Edu Jemfi. President Nanado and Mr. Bawumia, they have collapsed the economy. So I will never name my son or daughter Ado. Now or because, okay, it's not so clear. This is from William Labi from Ashanti Bekwai. Hello, Mr. Wilson. Good evening. I'm Pablo Alexander from Suma Ahinkro. This year's election is going to be based on track records, especially the economy. In my view, no policy is better than managing the economy. Exchange rates. How can a whole economist move from an exchange rate of 4 Ghana cedis to 17 Ghana cedis just in 8 years? JDM is best candidate for this election. Good evening, Mr. Wilson. Sitting in the house for about 8 years without a job gives me every reason to vote against this current government. Sorry, I need to keep my name private, please. Very well. Good evening, Mr. Wilson. I'm Maxwell. I will choose John Dramani Mahama. He promised us hospitals, roads, e-blocks, etc. And he fulfilled them. Bawumia promised 1 village, 1 dam, 1 district, $1 million, etc. Where are they? Okay, Maxwell, you didn't tell us where you are calling from or you are testing from. I trust Nana Kwame Bediakon of New Force Party to lead the nation. His manifesto and policies is just top notch and far different from rag rest. Let's all trust him for this job. He is the man for change. Vote number 12. And this is from Kwesi Darlington, Takrade. Good evening, Mr. Wilson. To me, if you destroyed a hospital and tried to build a church, then I'll see you as a failure. This is Simon from Kaswa. Don't vote for Baumia and his MPP for the following reasons. 1, they are very deceptive. 2, they will worsen our already junk economic status. 3, they will waste our money on luxurious and expensive flights. Okay, it goes on and it goes on. The name is God Asanko from Santa Maria. The message was too lengthy. Okay, good evening, sir. In fact, you are doing great job. I am King Solomon from Nungwa, RMU. We say peace for Ghana. Thank you. Who do I trust? That's the question. Honestly, my trust lies in a doer. My trust lies in an honest man. My trust lies in a man who has the experience and have a record which is very evident for all to see. My trust in this 2024 election is no other than John Dramani Mahama. You didn't add your name. Good evening, Mr. Wilson. Please, for me, I will vote for NDC because I know and have confidence in JDM. He has done some before. Okay, you didn't add your name. Good evening, Chief Crusader. Thanks for the great job you are doing for Mother Ghana. I will vote for JDM because he is the only one that can rescue and reset Ghana. He promises and fulfills his promises. Talks about the massive infrastructure development for just less than 4 years. You didn't add your name. Hello, good evening. We need a leader who is trustworthy, who is not self-seeking, who is a nationalistic, a leader with the nation at heart. And we can only see that in JDM, the nation builder. For me, good evening, boss. For me, JDM is most trustworthy politician in Ghana now because of his policies that favor Ghanaian youth. Ghana needs better and quality education, not tried and error-free SHS poorly implemented by some individuals. I trust ex-president JDM from AS inside, from Asif, that's the name, Asif, inside Adamsu. Okay, good evening, sir. My name is John Te. From Ningo Pram constituency. The only savior of this nation is His Excellency the JDM. He is tried and tested. Baumia is known to be a liar, dishonest person. Okay, thank you. You didn't. Okay, that's it. From John. This one says, please, if we are talking about trust, then we should allow JDM to come again because he has been there before. He has been there before. We all saw what happened under his watch. So I think he has the track record. I am Daniel Nyamiche from Sampa, German North constituency. My name is Edward from Takwa at Abusu. In fact, let's vote out the MPP, vote in the nation builder and his female vice. NDC all the way. All right. Good evening, Mr. Wilson. And thanks to your panel member, that is Professor Edu Jemfi, President Nana Akufo-Addo and Mr. Baumia. They have collapsed the economy, so I will never name my son. Okay, I'm not sure whether I think I've read this earlier. Hello, the MPP party has created a confusion and a lot of violence and disrespect against Speaker. Okay, this is, you didn't add your name. There are so many messages coming. My time is out. My producer is alerting me. Let me just let me go through and then take about 1 or 2 more. I am Charles Kwenu from Mankesim. I will choose John Mahama over the rest of the 12 presidential candidates for the 2024 elections. He prevailed over the alleged Ford and Airbus scandals. He accepted the most troubled energy crisis, code named Doomsaw, with the promise of fixing it, and did exactly so. He's the only president in my life who has given public where to locate his bank accounts for any reference. His first government has not more than 1 or 2 persons of his family members in any of the levels of governance. Okay, let me take the very last one. Hello, my name is Isuma Moro from Kintampo. I had trusted John Mahama due to the MPP party, especially Masters of Lies, especially, okay, it is not so clear, so let me substitute your message. Good evening, Mr. Wilson. My name is Sami. There's no way Nana Addo together with Dr. Baumia can be compared to former President Mahama. be it promises or trustworthiness. One constituency, $1 million. Where is it? Accra will be the cleanest city in Africa. Where is it? Just name the MPP promises, the dollar rate, and so forth. Right-minded Ghanaians will make their analysis and comparison. All too soon, this is where time will allow us. I know the messages are coming in, and a lot I have not been able to read. We appreciate you taking your time to send in your comments and your messages. As we indicated, between now and the next election, we are going to center our conversation on this area. And so the messages, those that have not been read, will be read next week, God willing. I want to appreciate Professor Samuel Edujemfi for his time and his insights into the conversation and the topic that we have had. I believe strongly that we've laid a good foundation for you to make a decision as far as the 7th December election is concerned. Next week, Monday, we are going to continue with this same topic, and then the following Monday, we'll have the same thing and we'll wrap it up, and then we'll give you the final advice as you go into the polls to go and decide who you can trust. All too soon, this is where time will allow us. I want to thank you so much also for being with us. My name, as I indicated, and as you know, is Emmanuel Wilson Jr., the Chief Crusader Against Corruption here in Ghana. This coming Wednesday, this episode is going to be repeated on this platform, XYZ, at exactly 11 a.m. And next week, the same time, next week, Monday, 8 p.m., we are going to have another insightful conversation. So we meet again next week. All I can say for now is good.